Kathy here from Kathy's Cute Creations. Today is the day we've all been waiting for. It is the assembly of the Fort Worth Fabric Studios Suddenly Summer Mystery Quilt. This is what you should have downloaded. That's your paperwork. Let me tell you what I've done. So I went ahead and I've stacked up all the squares the way it shows. So I stacked up the watermelon first, then the strawberry underneath it, the watermelon, and the strawberry. I have laid out that one row on my table here. I laid out the strip, which is, you can't see it. It is a white strip on the top as well as the bottom. Let me get a little closer here with the paper. See, there's a white strip up top. Here, let me get my pointer. And it's going to be whatever color you got. So here's a white strip here, then the squares, then a white strip, and then the red strip, and then we'll repeat a white, our squares, a white, and a red. Then we're going to have a white, our squares, and a white. And when we get done, we'll put the side whites on. And then the next thing is to put the border on the top and the bottom first, and then the side. So let me show you how I have this laid out on the table. I don't have a design wall. I had worked on getting another one, but I don't have it all configured out yet, so we're going to go ahead and do it on the table here. So let's go around the other side. I have the white strip laying here, as you can see. I have all my squares laid out the way I want, so I'm going to start with the dark green fabric here. Then I'm going to put the light green there. Then I have the next strip, and then these that we will attach. And the way that it's showing is it starts with the red gingham and meets the white in the middle, and then the red gingham on the right side. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to build my block. So I'm putting all those together first. Okay, now these two sets of blocks, and what I've done is I went ahead and I grabbed this set and the other set, and they need to be marked right here on the strawberry where these two stitching lines intersect each other. So just put a little bitty mark on it, and I'll make sure that I stay right on that line or to the right, and the same with this one, so that we do not take the tip off. And I'm going to mark both of them, and I've only got it pinned here at the beginning, here where I have to mark it, here where I have to mark it, and right here. I may go ahead and put one in the middle just to hold it still. But on these right here, we've only got to do these two sets right here for the tips. Now, if your blocks have been laying somewhere and you feel like you've got to re-iron them, by all means, go ahead and re-iron them. Alrighty, so let's just go ahead and sew these. Now I flipped the block over because the back side has one on this watermelon here at the tip top. We have to mark it also to keep from losing it. And so what I'll do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to sew this side first. Then I'm going to flip it over and do the other side. And I'm going to do that on both blocks. Now I'm going to only show one block because I don't want to make this video like an hour. I want to try to get it as condensed as I can, so you won't see a lot of the sewing, just what I'm doing to complete it. Okay? Now, if you don't want to put yours together like that, this way, then that's fine. You don't have to put it together like this. You put it together the way you want to put it together. I'm doing this one side first before I flip it over. And I'm going to go ahead and check it. I'm going to take a look at it. Okay, so it looks pretty good. I really enjoyed putting all these blocks together. I hope you guys did too. And I really like the way that I did that cutting on Saturday also, that different way. That'll come in handy for some other type blocks. Now we're just going to go right over the top of the stitching that I did for the other. It's not going to hurt it any. There we go. Now go ahead and do your other block. Alright, now we're going to do the same thing here. So we're taking these two sections, we're putting them right sides together, and they have to be marked just like the last one. So here's the middle one that has to be marked on the one side. And then I'm going to show you the tips when I get finished here. And then on the other side, we need to mark two places. Here's the first place to mark. Here's the second one to mark. And if you need to take your pen and go up your seam like this to see your stitches, if it helps you out any, because you can do this too, like that. That's where this is where my stitches are, right here. I can see them. And if that's what I have to do to mark this, then do it. And you can do it in 2 different colors if you want also. Now what I'm doing is the next set of rows, I'm going to go ahead and attach them, and we have to nestle these. So your fabric should be going the opposite direction so we can nestle these. And that's what you want to do. I'm going to go ahead and pin them, and I'm going to do the bottom one, which is the white, to catch it. And I did the same thing up here, so they're both nestled. We're going to sew this side, then when we're done, we're going to flip it over and do the other side. Now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to show you that I'm doing this one. So this is super duper easy. It's not as if we have to mark anything. I'm just going to match up your seams there, nestle them so that they come out correctly. And then when I do both sides here, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take my other strip, which is identical to this one, goes further down on the quilt, and I'm going to do it also so that I've got these 2 rows finished. And then we're going to do the popsicles next. Now this is the one side. Nestle and pin your other side and sew it. And I've got to watch my thread because my top thread up here is getting low on the spool. I've got plenty of bobbin, but I might have to get another spool of thread out. I'm just using white. My needle's a 12-inch. I'm doing 2.5-inch length. Some of you I know like to do a 2. I don't know of anybody that does 3, but usually you'll do a 2, which is fine. And you don't even have to do it in white. You could do it in pink or red, whatever your preference is. Now I'm pinning my popsicles next. And I've pinned one at the top here and one at the bottom. And you may be wondering, well, why are you doing that? That is so that when I tug a little bit, I make sure that this block fits. Because if it's not the right size, it'll buckle on you and it'll cause a little, like a dart or a wrinkle or whatever you want to call it. And what you want to do is you want to make sure that if it is a little bit off, and when I say a little bit off, in other words, one of the blocks is a little bit bigger. Now, it's not going to be bigger from the tip here to the tip here, but like the back has got like a curve. See this little curve? Let me see if you can see it. Okay, that means this back part is just a little bit longer than the top. Well, your bottom feed dogs will feed that in to straighten that out for you because they're pulling the fabric. So that's what you want to do, is make sure that the bigger one is on the bottom when you pin it. Now this doesn't need any kind of marking, but you do want to nestle up here in this corner. So make sure you nestle you want one going in one direction and one going the other. And we're going to do both of these blocks together. For those that have their design wall, which I do not have at this moment, you'll be able to take all of these strips that are sewn together and put them across your design wall so that you can see it before you actually sew them all together. The only thing I can do is lay it out here on my table. I've cleared my table off so I've got the room to do it. And that's what I'm going to show you here when I get done. I just want to have all of these prepared and done before I get started. And then when I sew this here, you're going to pull it just a little bit taut, but you're not holding on tightly to it. You're letting the sewing machine feed your fabric through for you. Don't be pulling on it or anything. And just take your time. And that's exactly what I'm doing. I'm going to do each one of these blocks. You got to tug on it or whatever you need to do. Then I'm going to talk to you about these strips when I get finished doing this that we're going to be putting on the ends, because I noticed when I laid mine out, and I'm going to show you what I'm talking about, because they haven't got the I'm trying to think what the word is. Hold on one second. Let me cut this. So I'm going to go ahead and just start sewing this one and then tell you what I was going to say. So they have the selvage on them because you trimmed, or you actually cut, you didn't trim, the strips 2.5 inches by the width of the fabric, which has your selvage attached. I haven't cut any of my selvage off, but you know, you can't use the selvage in the end of your quilt because the selvage is like, I mean, it can be anywhere between, I'm trying to think if I've ever seen any of them 1/8 of an inch. Usually they're like 1/4 of an inch up to an inch, depending on the fabric. And so now, keeping in mind that I went ahead and laid it out here, so I've already played with it a little bit. and it is on the bias, so there is a little bit of give on it, but you can only pull it so much when it's on the bias, because otherwise you're going to end up with a riffle effect on your quilt. So when I come down here, and I'm pretty sure I got a little piece of fabric that I can show you for an example, and just in case yours ends up getting the way that I think mine might, but I'm not sure, because we can add to it if we have to. But like I said, I'm going to show you here in a minute. Now make sure that you iron all of these when you're finished with them. Okay, now we're taking the two strips that we just did, we're putting them face down on each other, we're pinning them, and we're sewing them. So I'm not sure how long this video is going to take me to make, so if my alarm goes off, hopefully that doesn't scare me. I've got to pick up Megan from work. I'm attaching these two sets. So this is our, I'm going to call it the third strip. Now not counting the white strips that go in. I'm just talking about the block strips. This is the second set of blocks. Goodness gracious, I got a tongue twister here. This is a second set of block strips. Then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to create the other blocks also, because then I'm only putting each row together, and I'm going to call the strip a row also, because it is going between these rows that have the 4 blocks added. Alrighty, so here's what I'm talking to you about the selvage here. So this is what's on the end of my fabric, and you shouldn't be having any of this in your seam. So by rights, I need to cut off this amount. Look at the amount that I've got to cut off, which now shortens this piece. Now that's on one end, and I bring up the other end and I got to do the same thing. So I'm going to cut that off, and then I'm going to show you laid down next to my strip how short I am. Alrighty, here's the end after I've cut my selvage off. This is what I would be doing. I would literally be laying it along here and pinning it. And look what happens when it gets down to the end. Not enough fabric. And that's more than 1/4 of an inch, so I can't make that up. So I'm going to have to add fabric to this. So if I have to add this, I'll put it one time on the right, one time on the left, one time on the right, and I'll go back and forth so it'll balance out my quilt. So this tells me that my 1/4 inch was less than 1/4 inch, or else it wouldn't have come out like this. Or, I mean, I went ahead and I measured my squares. They are 11 3/4 by 12 1/2, so they're correct, and I put them all together, but it still isn't enough. So I don't know if the roll of this fabric was too short or what it was, but I'm not going to dwell about it. Now, if I had this color fabric, I would use it. I can look in my stash and see if I've got extra, but I have to make sure I have enough for every single strip. And I don't have my right and left strip cut, or I would know I had extra, but I'm not going to take the chance of that, because I can always come back and change it. So let me check in my box here, and we'll see what I'm going to do. Okay, so I have it laid out here on the table, just like that. So I'm going to go ahead and sew that white strip to the top, this white strip to the bottom, and then this strip to that, and then that to the strip. Okay, so I went ahead and I changed my mind. I went ahead and pinned the top strip on the first row of the 4 squares with the strawberries and the watermelon. So that's the first thing I did. Then when I was over there looking at it, I was going to put it on the bottom of this, but I got to thinking it's going to be easier to do it on the red strip. So the red that's got the gingham in it and the little polka dots. So I went ahead and I pinned the top and the bottom white strip onto that. Now don't forget, you need to mark this block, so the white fabric, which is the strip that you've added, is going to be on the bottom. You're not going to see that. Now when it comes to doing the red, the little gingham, which is the next strip, it can be on the top. The red, the white can be on the top or the bottom. It doesn't make any difference, because you're not doing anything in the way of marking. You're only marking on this. And then I'm going to do the same thing. So I'll repeat putting the white strip on the bottom and the top of the red, and then I'll go ahead and put my last row, just like I did this one. I'll put it on the bottom instead of the top. So you want to be careful and watch what you're doing so you don't accidentally put it upside down. You want to make sure that the top of your little strawberry plants are up, if that'll help you any. You could get confused by the watermelon, that's fine. And so while I'm doing this, I wanted to go ahead and mention to you, if you haven't seen the notice, because you haven't been on Facebook or anything, that Yvette has her pre-order for her Halloween paper piecing box. It is up for sale. It's pre-sale, so you're ordering it, and then when she's got them all together, she'll ship them out. I believe she put that up Wednesday, but if you haven't been online for a while, you know, busy with your life doing other things, and you're going to want to go check that out. She doesn't have that many, so they're going to sell out pretty fast. And you know, she really is into Halloween, so she's going to have an exceptional box. I'm just saying. I think I don't have my pin head stuck out far enough on my fabric here, because once it hits that pin, it's hitting resistance. I bet you they're over there at Fort Worth Fabric Studios getting ready for that next sew along. I wonder what that's going to be like. I wonder if they'll ever do any kind of applique snowflakes or something to that effect, or even make a block with a snowflake in it. Now don't worry if nothing matches up on this watermelon block, because some of these probably won't match up for you, and don't worry about it. Don't stress over it. Everybody's quilt is different. Everybody's block is different. I have never ever been disappointed when I've put a quilt together. I might have been disappointed in my color choice, but I've never been disappointed in the way I put it together. Now you have seen me take a block apart and change the color on it. I was sewing a block the other day. I haven't showed my video yet, so I can't say too much about it, but I took it apart, and you'll see it when the video comes up. And I didn't mention in the video, but when I recreated the block, and you'll understand it when you see this video, and I went to put it together, I didn't cut the fabric the same way. I changed the colors. The block was the exact same design, but it was changed a little bit. And when I went to make it, I ended up having a Y seam in it. Now, I don't believe I mentioned this in my video. And I thought, oh my gosh, I can't believe I ended up with a Y seam. And it's like, there's got to be a different way to make that without that Y seam in it. This was too simple of a block. So I sat and studied it a minute and realized I could make it a different way without the Y seam. So that's the way I ended up making it. But it is the same exact block. It's just made differently because I wanted to change the color. That's all. And you know, I'm going to change the color in those ties anyway. So I've got somebody's kind enough to be sending me a piece of blue fabric that I'm going to see if that'll work. And I'll show it to you guys when it comes time to do that. Now, for all of those that want to get that box from Yvette, she has a group called Piecing It Real. I want to call it Keeping It Real, but it's Piecing It Real with Yvette Renee. And she has, that's when she first talked about this box, she announced it to all of her subscribers that are in this group, not her normal regular subscribers. Then after a given time, she announced it to all the subscribers and everybody. It was on Facebook. I believe Becca also announced it on her Facebook. My Facebook is so behind, I haven't had time to update it or anything else. I got a lot of stuff going on, which I'll explain, you know, later. I'm not going to explain it right now, but you'll understand it a little bit later on. I'll explain a little bit. I think I'll just do a video, I think, and talk about the situation. But I think this block's coming along great. All these blocks and everything. I think this quilt is gorgeous, and I just really love these colors. You know, I didn't used to like red, but anymore I really do like the color red. I think I'd like to make a red and white quilt. I've got some cream fabric that I bought in a fat quarter bundle, a great big huge fat quarter bundle, that I got to make something out of that too. It's got a lot of different colors of cream in it, and that'll look nice. I think Fort Worth Fabric Studios, they have a lot of really pretty fabric when they come to choosing for their different quilts, their mystery quilts. I would like all these fabrics. Go ahead, and I'm going to do this other side now. And this is the first block. Couldn't pin all of it because I don't have that many pins on here. And some of these pins are used for different things. They're not all for this quilting right here, or this seams. These little ones right here are, but these other ones are different for different things. They're bigger size pins and things like that. So I don't have a whole slew of pins to be using on here. And my other pin cushion is downstairs because I was using it to hold my needle. I was doing some hand sewing for some projects that I'm going to put on my website, and that's going to be hopefully, I'm hoping that's going to happen within the next couple of months. I'm not sure yet. It just depends on everything else that's going on. I mean, it's a whole bunch of things involved right now. I'm going to introduce a couple of things to sell. I'm going to make an e-commerce on my website, and I'm going to have a couple of things. I'm just going to start out with a few things. I'm not going to be putting a whole bunch of different stuff on there. I'm just going to start out with just some basic things that I will repeat putting on there for sale, along with some of these things that I need to get taken care of. But I'm not going to have a slew of things that at this point, I'm not going to be selling any kind of fabric. Now, I might be putting up some patterns or something that if you need to download it to follow something I'm doing. Like when I make like when I was making up not the heart, but it was something else I was making up, and it was in an applique. There's no way right now that you could download that off of my website. I don't have it set up correctly for that. But if I wanted you to download something for free off of there, I want you to have the capability to do that also. I've got a lot of projects here at home that I got to get done also. Oh, I was talking to my sister about it on the telephone last night. Can't pay somebody to come out and do it, and I don't know anybody I can barter with. Used to be able to do that a long time ago, but I don't think that kind of thing exists here, and I can't afford it. I've had some estimates on some things, and that the prices are outrageous, and there's no way I can afford that. I don't make the money for that. So we shall see. That's the way I say. The good Lord will provide. You believe in that kind of stuff. In the meantime, I'm wondering what the Fort Worth Fabric Studio is going to have next. What's their brilliant idea for their next quilt? I can't wait to find out. That's just down there. Gotta wonder if it's going to be in Christmas colors, or is it going to be in blues, or is it going to be in silvers and blues, or, you know, that kind of thing. Alright, so I'm coming to the tail end of this one. And then make sure that when you get finished with all these, you guys iron them all open, alright? Because that's what I'm doing, I'm ironing them. Now I'm going to lay this out on the table to show you what I've got so far up to this point. Alright, so I don't think I mentioned it, so this is the way I'm putting this on. I took this red fabric and I folded it in half and I pinched it right in the middle on both ends. So it's got a pinch, I can see it. Took my fabric and did the same thing. I pinched it in the middle, and now I line it up and put it in the middle, put a pin on it, right smack dab in the middle, go all the way over here to the left, take my fabric, put a pin on the left hand side, go back over here to the right, and do the same thing all the way over here. And I think I got my middle off. Okay, hold on one second. Let's redo that. Yeah, I was off on my middle, because it's got a crease in there. Let me put a pin in there just to make sure. I was afraid that was going to happen because it happened the last time. I should have known it was going to happen again. I put it there and it's really right here. That's where my middle is. Fabric here, line it up with the middle and attach it. And now go down to the right and put it on there. And then what I did the last time around is, and you can do this, I went halfway up and put a pin in it about here. It's probably in the middle or over to the right, like that, and then went out to the middle and to the left, and the same thing here. I did that on that other piece also. I didn't show it and I forgot to tell you all about it, but I'm telling you now. And then when I pin this, I'm going to go ahead and do this other side down here also, so I can have this one done. I'm going to do both of these red, and it'll be easier to put it on the other piece, because this goes on the, or not this one, but the other one on the table. But I want to go ahead and I want to prep all of these and get them all sewn so that I can just sit and put rows after row after row and get them all done like that. And to me, that makes it go faster instead of doing one at a time. I mean, lots of people like to do it one at a time, but I don't want to do it one at a time. Trying to make it so that my video is not that long. That's why I hate to keep showing a whole bunch of stuff, and I hate to do all this talking too, to be truthful with you. All right, let me shut this off and start focusing. Pin that row there to this row here before we do the popsicles. So I wanted to let you know that if you're not subscribed to the Fort Worth Fabric Studios website, you won't get their notifications on Friday when they have sales. And they do have sales, and it'll come to your inbox to let you know. There's some really neat fat quarters and things like that. Now this is my first 2 rows. And you got to make sure that you're on this side so that you can see what you're stitching. I'm sewing the popsicle to the next set of red. I still got the first 2 laying on the table, but I've decided to go ahead and do these 2. I feel like it's more done if I do that. And I did a whole bunch of pinning. Okay, so now I'm attaching the top two sections, and I will have the last row left to do before I do the binding. I'm not the binding, the sashing across the top and the sides. This last bit of thread I have on this spool lasts for this part right here. I can change it out to put the sashing on, but I would like to get this done before I run out of thread. Yeah. Alright, so I have pinned. First I sewed 2 of the long strips together. Then I've pinned the right side and the left side, both completely pinned, and now I'm just going to sew them. Hopefully my camera won't go off. It says it has a power of 30, and it should be enough to get all this. Be sure and mark your fabric. Finish up doing the other side, and then we'll iron it and we'll come back. So for the pieced border, I went ahead and I just sewed the pieces so I could get the most fabric, because the directions say you're going to be using most of this. I mean, you're going to be using up all of this fabric. And the first piece goes down each side that we just completed with the white. So I'm just pinning it sparingly. I'm not pinning it a whole bunch like I did the last time with the white, because it's just 2 pieces of fabric going together. And I didn't do the, I'm going to call it a cross section when you put the fabric together. I just matched the 2 ends and did it and cut off a 1/4 inch, because it gives you more fabric that way. I'll show you on this piece right here what I'm talking about. So when I connected the pieces, this is what I did. I took the 2 pieces like this and put them together, and then cut a 1/4 inch off, because that's the selvage right there, and that's it. And I just ironed it over instead of doing the cross piece, which takes off a bit of your fabric. This gives me more fabric, and they want you to do the right and the left side, and then you do the top and the bottom last. And now go ahead and do the other side also. Alright, let me show you the way I'm going to cut this off. So I just sewed this down on this side here, which is the side. I flipped it over. I'm putting my ruler on it, and it's always to have a little bit extra than not enough. And then I just cut, and I'll attach this to the other. And I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. Just go down to the bottom here, lay it out as flat as you can, like that, and then cut it off. And now I've got both of those for the other strip, and I just need to iron this all open. And here we have the finished assemble of the blocks. I hope you guys like them. I really like the way they turned out, even though I had to use those 2 different greens on the 2 watermelon blocks. Take a good look. It all turned out. And if you like this video, give it a thumbs up, make a comment, click on the little bell so you can get more notifications. And I'll see y'all next time. And thank you for sharing my wonderful camera person at the moment.
Hey, and I'm not shaking it either.
Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.